this class, we will learn about using the A element or the anchor element. The structure of the A element, we have an opening A tag and a closing A tag. Notice the opening A tag is actually ending right here. The href attribute, hypertext reference, indicates the destination of the hyperlink. The hyperlink is placed inside the opening and closing A tag. So if you look over here to the right, you will see the hyperlink by default is blue and underlined. We can change that style using CSS. So by default, when we click on a hyperlink, it opens in the browser window from which it was clicked. The typical scenario for your organization of files in your website is to put everything in one folder. The folder is referred to as the root. It does not matter what the name of that folder is. That will be your default directory on the web server. All of your files will go in the root. So here we have 3 HTML files and an image, and these are all in one folder, which is technically referred to as the root. It is very common for web developers to have an images folder for all of their images. Therefore, when you are inserting an image, you need to reference the name of the folder. If the image is on a file that is located on top of the folder, all you need to do is reference the name of the folder and then the file in it. This is referred to as a path. When you need to refer to folders, it is called a path. When you are linking to a resource or inserting a resource, such as an image that is underneath you, you are going down, so all you need to do is refer to the name of that folder and then the image or the file inside that folder. A large website may have multiple folders in addition to an images folder. If I wanted to reference a file that is inside a folder with a hyperlink, all I need to do is to reference the folder, the name of the file, and that will work as I'm going down. However, if you're already 1 or 2 levels below the root, this is the most common way that we do that, is with .. .. means we are going up 1 level. So let's take a look at our folder structure. I have a navigation folder which is looked at as my root. Inside I have 3 files. Index.html is the common name for the home page. It will automatically load when you type in a web address. So I have an index page, which is my home page, a dogs page, and a cats page. I have an images folder and I have a specials folder. In my specials folder, I have 2 other folders, 2016, 2007. In my 2017 folder, I have an HTML file. So I will attempt to show you how to code in the hyperlinks so that we can link all these files and resources together. So here is my index.html file. If I were to load this in my browser, notice brackets uses what is called the local web server or local host, depending on how brackets is configured on your computer. Other editors may just give you the local path to your hard drive. And I would like to point out that you never have spaces, file names, or folder names in your web content. So here we have a fictitious Pet Supplies online website, and we are going to link these 3 pages. The dog page and the cat page are in the root. The specials for September are in a folder which is in another folder 2 levels under the root. On the home page, looking on the left, the home page index.html is in my root. So if I wanted to insert the image, I need to reference the images folder and then the file inside. So here is my path for my image. Now, how would I link the dogs page? The dogs page is right here, so we do not need to enter a path. So here we have our opening A tag, our closing A tag, and this is the hyperlink that we'll be clicking on, and this is the destination. All of these files here on the left are in the same folder. They are in the root. So therefore, when we link to them, all we need to do is to link to that file name. We do not need a folder or a path. Let me show you how to do this with Adobe Brackets. Adobe Brackets is very smart. Notice it knows my file structure, my directory structure or folder structure. It shows me my choices. I can choose cats, and there it is. Let's take a look at specials for September. Looking at the left, remember, it is in a folder, which is in another folder, which is underneath the root. I will start with my A element. Now href equals. Notice how smart it is. I go into this. Remember, when you're linking to something from the root or from a higher position, you're referencing down. So I go down into the specials. I go down into 2017, I find the file name, and there it is. So if I were to save this and look at it in my browser here, there's the dog page, there's the cats page, and here's my specials. You can see in your address bar where you are. This is our root. We are in the specials folder, then the 2017 folder, then this is our file. So linking to pages in the root are relatively easy. Linking to pages underneath the root, you essentially are working down, referencing the folders and then the files. What happens when we want to work backwards? Now I am on the September page, and I am underneath the root. How would I put the image here? We need to go up one level to the specials. We need to go up another level to the navigation, which is our root. Then we need to go down to the images folder. This is just the way it works. You can't just reference file names. You have to indicate where that resource is in relationship to where that page is in the overall folder hierarchy. So I will start with // images. So if I were to save and look at this, there is my logo. How would I link to the dogs page from this resource, which is several levels under the root again? I will start with my A element, .. and notice it knows where I am. There's dogs. If I were to save this, and here we are on the specials page, and if I click for the dogs page, there we are. It is not necessary to have an elaborate folder or directory structure for a simple web page. However, should you work in the industry, you will find they have a very elaborate folder or directory structure because they have thousands of files. So for our purposes, I would recommend keeping your HTML files in the root, using an images folder for your images. I would like to point out one more thing, as you may see this on the web, and I am in the September file, which again is 2 levels below the root. Rather than use .. to continually go up, you can indicate the starting point with a backslash. That backslash represents your root folder. So rather than going up, I can just say dogs page is located in the root and the name of the file, and it will work. For the images, rather than using .. here again, I can go back to the root, which is indicated by the backslash, then go down into the images folder and reference the file. However, this will not work from the local file references. This will only work from a web server. If we take a look at our file, my brackets is configured to work with localhost, and this is the representation of localhost up here. Therefore, I can see my logo and my link to the dog page work. If I am referencing my file purely from the hard drive, that is not a web server. Notice the address. That is, I'm launching a file from my hard drive. Notice I do not see an image, and notice my link does not work because this file manager does not recognize that backslash as a root because I am purely opening files. So this is the address bar, and it's saying that this is just a file being opened in a browser. Over here, it doesn't say HTTP, but it does not say file either. It gives me the IP address of my local host. So you may see this backslash being used in a lot of your larger professional websites if you look at the source code on the internet. And I just want to point out that that will not work in a local file. It will only work from a web server. So I recommend learning the ... unless you're comfortable with using brackets from the web server.